Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking a deep dive into an incredibly complex and honestly heartbreaking situation. We'll be breaking down Major Digvijay Singh Rawat's comprehensive first-hand account of the crisis in Manipur. Now, Major Rawat is a former 21 Paris Special Forces officer who operated right in the thick of this conflict. So the insights we're about to explore, they offer a rare, unfiltered look at how a state actually unravels.
If you've been following the news at all, you've likely seen the fragmented headlines and, of course, the shocking videos. But we have to step back and ask the central question here. What is the real reason behind the violence in Manipur? I mean, how does a region go from a hard-won peace to absolute chaos seemingly overnight? Well, today we are cutting straight through the noise to uncover the true roots of this conflict. So here is our roadmap for today. We'll cover 1. Historical roots, 2. The 2023 conflict trigger, 3. Disinformation and violence, 4. Collapse of local law, 5. Challenges for the army, and lastly, 6. Geopolitics and influence. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. Historical roots of insurgency. You know, to truly understand today's chaos, we have to wind the clock back just a bit. Right after India's independence, several princely states, and that includes Manipur, merged with the Indian Union. However, this transition left a serious, lingering unrest among certain factions who felt totally left out of the decision-making process. Over time, this civil unrest morphed into a full-blown armed insurgency. Different groups had completely separate demands. You had pushes for a sovereign Nagalam or a separate Kongo-Lepak nation. Crucially, foreign powers definitely took notice. China historically funded these civil groups via Myanmar, funneling in weapons and training. But fast forward a bit, and over the years, the Indian government made massive strides. Through suspension of operations or sue agreements, the government successfully brought militants above ground. They offered stipends and designated camps. It was a huge success. Before 2023, the region had actually achieved near total peace. The era of major insurgency was supposedly over. Section 2. The 2023 trigger. Fragile peace shattered. So, what was the exact catalyst that shattered this peace in the summer of 2023? And this brilliantly illustrates the demographic divide right at the very heart of the state. On one side, you have the Métis community. They live in the highly fertile valley, they hold the majority of the population, but here's the catch. They are restricted from buying land in the surrounding hills, and they do not have scheduled tribe or ST status. On the flip side, you have the Kuki and Naga tribes. They live in the hills, they already hold that ST status which gives them access to certain government reservations, and importantly, they are legally permitted to buy land down in the valley. So the Métis felt underrepresented in bureaucratic roles and demanded ST status to level the playing field. It's a classic, deeply rooted dispute over land rights, reservations, and basic survival instincts. Let's trace how wildly fast this all escalated. Prior to May 2023, a judge in the Manipur High Court made a highly controversial recommendation to grant ST status to the Métis. According to legal experts, this actually overstepped the court's mandate because that usually falls strictly to the president of India. The hill tribes immediately felt threatened by this shift in the status quo. Coincidentally, on the exact same day the president of India was visiting Imphal, the hill tribes launched massive protest rallies across the entire state. What started as street protests quickly blew up. In a place called Torbong, armed clashes erupted. Suddenly, assault rifles and pistols are being drawn right on the highways. In just a matter of days, the entire landscape was transformed. Section 3. Disinformation. Escalating the violence. Those physical clashes were just the spark, but man, it was the digital space that poured gasoline on the fire. The mechanics of the information warfare here are truly terrifying, and it really shows how easily digital spaces can be manipulated to trigger real-world catastrophes. Rumors started spreading like wildfire on social media that 50 Métis medical students had been assaulted. It was completely false. One individual even circulated a video of a tragic, completely unrelated crime from Hapur, Uttar Pradesh, claiming it was local violence in Manipur. Even though the clothing in the video didn't even match local traditions, mob fury just blinded people to the facts. And to make matters worse, foreign actors jumped right in. Pakistani social media handles instantly amplified this fake news, manipulating statements and bypassing official government fact checks before they could even be published. This disinformation sparked a blind, horrific rage on all sides. Major Digvijay noted a staggering level of brutality that followed. Neighbors turned on neighbors. The source details some truly horrifying incidents, like a 4-year-old child being brutally killed
or a government income tax officer burned alive in his own complex. As the major states, the sheer inhumanity pushed the conflict way beyond repair. The violence reached a point of no return, where communities felt their very existence was under threat.
Section 4, Law Collapse, Systemic Void, which leads us to ask, how does a state descend into complete lawlessness while the police are standing right there? Well, the crucial point here is the complete fracturing of the state's security apparatus. The local police completely divided along ethnic lines. The neutral rule of law just evaporated. Métis police officers in Imphal began acting essentially as a Métis militia, while Kuki police officers acted as a Kuki militia. Law enforcement became active participants in the ethnic conflict, completely abandoning their duty to the state. And the result of that systemic failure? 4,000. That is the staggering number of weapons looted from state police armories over several months. That's enough to outfit a small army. And here's the most chilling detail from the source. During these massive raids on police stations on various dates, not a single civilian casualty was recorded. Zero. It strongly implies that the doors were simply opened. Organized mobs just walked away with state-owned assault rifles with zero resistance. Meanwhile, the local government was entirely paralyzed. Local politicians, including the chief minister himself, faced immense pressure, and not just from rival communities, but from their own people. The chief minister's own home was actually fired upon by his own community because they felt he wasn't doing enough to protect them. Elected leaders were dragged out by mobs and forced to apologize. The entire political structure buckled under the weight of mob justice. Section 5. Army Challenges. Operating in a Vacuum. In this total lack of local authority, responsibility fell to neutral forces like the Indian Army, but they faced some truly monumental hurdles. Just months prior to the conflict, the Armed Forces Special Powers Act, or AFSPA, had actually been removed from the area because the region was deemed peaceful. This legal framework is what grants the military the power to independently conduct operations and maintain order in disturbed areas. Without it, the Army initially lacked the legal mandate to take immediate sweeping control without state permission. A state government, mind you, that was already totally paralyzed. Let's see how this builds into an absolute operational nightmare. Even with actionable intelligence, the Army was practically handcuffed. In one instance, special forces tracked down a militant responsible for killing a young child, but to extract him safely without starting a massive crossfire with an angry mob of thousands, they had to literally call in a helicopter. In another jaw-dropping incident detailed in the source, the military captured a wanted militant responsible for the deaths of 20 soldiers. However, an angry mob led by a local politician surrounded the troops, forcing the military to release the militant just to avoid a bloodbath. Absolutely wild.
Section 6. Geopolitics. Foreign influence. But you see, this isn't just a local dispute over land. We have to zoom out and look at the external actors exploiting this tragedy.
Now, what's really fascinating about this slide is how global forces are actively fueling a local fire. You have China constantly seeking to destabilize the region, once again stepping in to supply drones and logistical support to insurgent groups. You have Myanmar acting as a fractured safe haven for militants to just hide across the border. We already talked about Pakistani social media handles weaponizing fake news. And then there's a very bizarre twist regarding international funding. This source highlights international networks, sometimes spearheaded by individuals claiming to be climate activists, openly crowdfunding money globally. But get this, the money isn't going to climate relief. They are publicly posting on social media about distributing thermal drones and military hardware to wanted insurgents, claiming they're quote-unquote protecting their tribes. It is a stunning display of how modern conflicts can be crowdfunded in broad daylight, right on the exact same social media feeds you scroll through every single day, all under the guise of activism. Which leaves us with a terrifying reality. We've seen how decades of complex history, a single controversial legal decision, completely unchecked digital rumors, and a total collapse of local policing can plunge a state into absolute chaos. When the very institutions meant to protect citizens fracture along ethnic lines and the truth is buried under a mountain of digital lies, how does a society step back from the point of no return? It's a deeply sobering question, and one that forces us to look really closely at the fragility of peace anywhere in the world. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next one.